account of the sale of inventory of diamonds, and anticipated improved profitability in the diamond sector. Non-mineral income tax and value-added tax are also projected to increase by 1.2 billion and 1.55 billion respectively as a result of continued revenue collection efforts. The customs and excise revenue estimate has been reduced because of the downward revision of the 2016-17 Southern African Customs Union forecasts by the South African Treasury, and of course, exchange rate movements have also affected this. On the other hand, the projected total expenditure and net lending for 2016-17 shows an increase by 2.59 billion from the original budget of 54.44 billion to 57.03 billion. This is due to supplementary funding to replenish the agriculture credit guarantee scheme. Whenever there is drought, the farmers, many of them present here, require the assistance from this scheme, and we had to increase it. And of course, also the purchase of food for secondary schools under the recurrent budget, as well as the provision of additional funding for water and energy projects under development budgets. Net lending is also anticipated to reach 1.09 billion due to BCL liquidation expenses amounting to 1.02 billion, as well as 300 million Pula loan and 100 million Pula equity extended to the National Development Bank. In the meantime, the repayment of funds initially disbursed for underwriting of shares in the Botswana Telecommunications IPO process amounting to 250 million was received. As a result, the revised budget balance for financial year 2016-2017 shows a deficit of 1.1 billion. Madam Speaker, I now turn to 2017-2018 budget proposals. Madam Speaker, before I present the budget proposals for 2017-18, I wish to re-emphasize that the 2017-18 budget marks the beginning of NDP 11 implementation. Therefore, this year's budget seeks to address strategies and priorities identified in NDP 11, which I presented in my previous section of this speech. Revenues and grants. Madam Speaker, the 2017-18 total revenues and grants estimate amounts to 57.19 billion Pula, of which the largest share amounting to 17.06 billion, or 29.8%, will come from customs and excise revenue. Mineral revenue is estimated at 16.33 billion, or 28.6%, while non-mineral income tax is estimated at 12.5 billion, or 21.59% of total revenues and grants. VAT, on the other hand, or rather VAT collection is expected to reach 8.11 billion, or 14.18%, while the remaining balance of 3.3%, or 5.8, while the remaining balance of 3.34 billion Pula, or 5.8%, will be made up of other revenues and grants. I now deal with the allocations under the current budget. Madam Speaker, the proposed 10 million is coming, very important, yeah, it's coming. Recurrent budget. Madam Speaker, the proposed ministerial recurrent budget for 2017-18 financial year amounts to 39.66 billion Pula, which represents an increase of 2.32 billion, or 6.2% over the 2016-17 revised budget. So there is an increase. Of this ministerial recurrent budget, 71.3% is proposed to be allocated to 5 ministries, And those ministries are basic education, health and wellness, local government and rural development, defense, justice and security, and tertiary education, research, science and technology. It is proposed, Madam Speaker, that the Ministry of Basic Education be allocated the largest amount of the recurrent budget of 6.8 billion or 17.2%. This is in line with the commitment made by government to improve education through the implementation of the Education and Training Sector Strategic Plan. The second largest amount, or share, amounting to 6.59 billion, or 16.6% of the total, is proposed for allocation to the Ministry of Health and Wellness. This will mainly cater for the provision of drugs, as we should expect, vaccines, antiretroviral therapy, replacement of obsolete medical equipment, and the implementation of the treat-all strategy for HIV/AIDS. Madam Speaker, the third largest share of 5.62 billion, or 14.2% of the total, mainly to cater for provision for revenue support grants to urban and district councils, maintenance of existing infrastructure, provision for food supplies and old age pension scheme, is proposed for allocation to the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development. The fourth largest, wait for development budget. The fourth largest share of the ministerial recurrent budget of 5.01 billion, or 12.6%, is proposed for allocation to the Ministry of Defense, Justice and Security to cover operational costs, including maintenance of assets, which comprise aircraft, vehicles, buildings, and fuel costs. An amount of 4.25 billion, Madam Speaker, or 10.7%, being the fifth largest share, is proposed for allocation to the Ministry of Tertiary Education, Research, Science and Technology. This allocation covers provision for student financing in both public and private tertiary institutions, and subventions to the ministry parastatals, such as the University of Botswana, Botswana University, International University of Science and Technology, Botswana Accountancy College, Botswana College of Distance and Open Learning, and Botswana Institute of Technology, Research and Innovation. Madam Speaker, the remaining balance of 11.39 billion is proposed to be shared among the rest of the ministries and independent departments. Among those expected to receive a significant share of this balance are the Ministry of Transport and Communications at 1.97 billion, Ministry of Presidential Affairs, Governance and Public Administration, 1.21 billion, Ministry of Agricultural Development and Food Security, 1.1 billion, Ministry of Investment, Trade and Industry, 936 million, and the Ministry of Land Management, Water and Sanitation Services at 855 million. Statutory expenditure. Madam Speaker, in addition to the ministerial recurrent budget, government must include provision to cover payments mandated by various statutes, as the Leader of Opposition will very much know. The proposed budget for statutory expenditure for the financial year 2017-18 is 6.98 billion pula. The amount will mainly cover the servicing of debt obligations. This government pays back its debts, pensions and gratuities, of which the largest share is government contribution to Botswana Public Officers Pension Fund, not the President, gratuities for non-pensionable officers, as well as salaries for specified officers. Madam Speaker, now I attend to the development budget. Rates winter. Yeah. Madam Speaker, the proposed development budget for the 2017-2018 financial year is 16.52 billion pula. 16.52 billion pula. The largest share of the budget is proposed for allocations to the Ministry of Mineral Resources, Green Technology, and Energy Security at 2.94 billion, or 17.8%. This is in recognition that the reliable and efficient sources of energy are prerequisites for achieving NDP 11 priority area of development of diversified sources of economic growth. These are sine qua non towards that priority area. The major projects under the ministry comprise the Northwest Transmission Grid, Murupule A Power Plant rehabilitation, the construction of Rakola, and the construction of Rakola substation. Furthermore, it is proposed that the Botswana Power Corporation be allocated an amount of 1.46 billion to cover operational costs of BPC. Subsidy, in other words. And if this subsidy was not provided, it must be explained that the tariffs that you are now paying to BPC will, of course, be much higher. Therefore, this is a noble gesture, I believe, on the part of the government. The second largest share of 2.8 billion, or 17.8%, is proposed for allocation to the Ministry of Land Management, Water and Sanitation Services. This amount will be used for implementation of water projects, inclusive of the North-South Carrier 2 to supply water to the southern part of the country, and reticulation of water from the Tuna Dam to nearby villages. This allocation will also cater, among others, for implementation of the Land Administration Procedure Capacity and Systems, LAPCAS for short, to improve land management, as well as for land servicing, which is expected to enhance investment and employment opportunities in the country. To address the NDP 11 priority area of strengthening national security, national safety and security, it is proposed that the Ministry of Defense, Justice and Security gets the third largest share of the development budget at 2.76 billion, or 16.7%. This amount will be used to complete ongoing construction of police stations and housing, refurbishment of prison facilities, construction of houses for army personnel, construction of houses for army personnel. I hope there will be no more argument about this in the next 2 weeks. Purchase of vehicles and upgrading of equipment for the Botswana Defence Force. For what purpose? To enhance security capabilities. Madam Speaker, efficient transport systems are essential for moving goods and services, linking people to economic opportunities, and enabling access to health and education. Similarly, information and communication technologies have emerged as a major driving force behind economic growth and job creation. To this end, the fourth largest share, 1.7 billion, or 10.5% of the development budget, is proposed for allocation to the Ministry of Transport and Communications to cater for the government data networks phase 3, schools connectivity project, Kazungula Bridge construction, which is ongoing, Mohembo Bridge construction, I believe it's ongoing, if not about to start, rehabilitation of Mankoli to Juanen Road, and Rakuna to Mabule Road, among others. Madam Speaker, the proposed budget allocation for the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development is 1.74 billion, or 10.5%. And it is also the fourth largest share, and equal to that of the Ministry of Transport and Communications. This allocation is expected to address requirements for social protection, construction of additional facilities for primary schools, and village infrastructure in different locations around the country. The major projects under village infrastructure are development of infrastructure at Kang, in Tutume, and Raban. The allocation also covers primary school facilities backlog eradication countrywide. Ipelecheng and destitute housing, which will address the NDP 11 priority area of poverty eradication, is also included here. Madam Speaker, the proposed budget allocation to this ministry, that is local government, also includes an amount of 570 million pula for community development projects. Yes. These projects, Madam Speaker, which are a government initiative to empower local communities, will be implemented along parliamentary constituency lines, with each of the 57 constituencies allocated 10 million pula. Yes. You got it now, eh? All of them, no exception. It is intended, Madam Speaker, it is intended that an annual budget provision be maintained for the rest of NDP 11. This must be understood. Madam Speaker, it is proposed that the Ministry of Agricultural Development and Food Security be allocated the fifth largest budget of 983 million to cater for the continuation of major projects that are geared towards improving food security. Important objective. These are the projects that we are familiar with, which include integrated support program for arable development, is PAAD for short, livestock management and infrastructure development limit, agriculture service support program, and the Pandamatenga agricultural infrastructure development. Improving food security enables the citizens of this country to become more resilient and ensures that they participate effectively in economic activities that improve their livelihood. The sixth largest, this is in addition to the other things, it's not all. The sixth largest share of the budget, amounting to 844 million, is proposed for allocation to the Ministry of Basic Education. The bulk of these funds, amounting to 731 million, is for secondary schools program to cater for, among others, provision of additional ICT facilities in secondary schools, as well as construction of staff houses. The other major projects include the development of outcome-based curriculum and career paths. All these initiatives, Madam Speaker, are expected to address the NDP 11 priority area of human capital development.